Have you ever noticed how, even with a clear intention to change, something inside you pulls you back to the same place? As if, the moment things start to move forward, an old pattern reactivates and you find yourself doing exactly what you promised to stop doing? This is one of the biggest dilemmas for those on the path of self-awareness. The feeling of wanting to change, but repeating. And as frustrating as that may seem, it's not about weakness or lack of willpower. It's a subconscious cycle operating below your conscious awareness. A cycle that Joe Dispenza describes as the foundation of self-sabotage. The problem is not what you consciously want, but what you have unconsciously become. There is an emotional, vibrational identity that is stored in your body, your habits, and your automatic reactions. And unless this identity is transformed, any attempt at change will be interpreted by your system as a threat. This explains why you hold back even when everything points to moving forward. Self-sabotage is a reflection of a frequency that is still active, even if you've already decided to change. Your body, used to certain emotional states, like anxiety, doubt, guilt, or fear, starts to create situations that maintain those emotions, because that's what it has learned to live in. This turns into an emotional addiction, and without realizing it, you enter a loop. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I sabotage myself? Or, why do I keep attracting the same problems? Know that the answer is not in external events, but in how your subconscious mind and your vibrational field continue to hold onto the same story. But this story can be interrupted. There is a structural flaw in this cycle, and that's exactly where your chance to break free lies. Joe Dispenza revealed the map of this process. When you understand this map, you begin to see that the pattern that keeps repeating is not who you are. It's just the energetic identity you've been carrying. Joe Dispenza explains that most people live in a repetitive cycle between thought, emotion, and behavior, a cycle that ends up shaping their identity without them realizing it. It all starts with a thought, usually automatic, that triggers a familiar emotion. That emotion fuels a behavioral reaction that, over time, becomes part of their personality. The problem is, if this cycle isn't interrupted, you end up living based on the past, even when you're trying to change. It's as if your body becomes better at remembering how you feel than your mind is at remembering what you want. Over time, this pattern turns into a subconscious program that controls your choices, reactions, and even your perception of reality. This means that even with new conscious intentions, your energy, your posture, and your emotions keep sending out the same signals as always. Self-sabotage shows up when you try to act differently, but the emotional foundation supporting your identity hasn't changed. You might start a new routine, a new project, a new relationship, but if there isn't a real change in how you feel and interpret your own internal story, everything goes back to the same old starting point. For Joe Dispenza, the path to transformation isn't just about thinking differently, but about feeling differently about yourself. That's where reprogramming begins. When you're able to generate a new emotion from a new mental model, your body starts to experience a different internal reality. And that directly affects your energetic frequency and your external choices. What keeps the cycle alive isn't just negative thoughts, but the emotional state attached to them. The key, then, isn't only to watch your thoughts, but to break the emotional sequence that keeps them going. Without that, the pattern comes back, disguised as logic or self-protection. The body always finds an excuse not to change. The body responds before the mind has time to evaluate. And this happens because habit creates neurological shortcuts. The more often you feel, think, and act in the same way, the more automatic this process becomes. The brain records patterns as a way to save energy. If you feel anxiety every time you think about putting yourself out there or standing your ground, that emotional cycle becomes solidified. Before long, your body reacts with tension, discouragement, or distraction every time a similar situation approaches, even if, rationally, you want to move forward. This is where what Dispenza calls conditioned emotional memory comes in. The body becomes addicted to certain emotional states. It starts to expect them and even unconsciously trigger them. This means the urge to give up, the fear of trying, or the tendency to self-sabotage doesn't come only from conscious thoughts, but from automatic commands your body has learned to carry out. Repetition has created an emotional identity that comes before your desire to change. The energy of habit is stronger than momentary motivation. That's why so many people go back to the starting point even after a good beginning. The body, conditioned to familiar emotions, sees change as instability and activates the old defense system. Changing, therefore, is a process of emotional re-education. It's about teaching your body that the new identity, the one that acts with confidence, presence, and clarity, is safe. And that sense of safety only comes with the conscious repetition of new emotional states until they become more familiar than the old ones. Joe Dispenza states that emotions have chemistry, and over time that chemistry becomes familiar. Emotions like fear, anxiety, anger, or guilt generate specific biochemical reactions. The body gets used to these substances and starts seeking situations that trigger them, even if that goes against your goals. It's like a silent addiction. The old emotion becomes an internal reference for your identity. You begin to recognize who you are based on what you constantly feel. And without realizing it, you start to protect that emotional pattern. That's why, when a new possibility appears, a new path, a new attitude, a more aligned choice, the body reacts with discomfort. It's all part of the same cycle, keeping you close to your usual energetic identity. As long as you continue reacting emotionally like the old version of yourself, you are keeping the cycle alive. It's not enough to think differently. You need to feel differently, and that requires stepping out of automatic repetition and taking control of your emotional frequency. Many people have the intention to change. Few are able to internally sustain the vibration of what they want to manifest. They still react to the world with the frequency of what they want to leave behind, instead of living with the frequency of what they want to attract. That's why this is the most important moment of this video. You're going to interrupt the pattern, not with effort, but with awareness. Let's do this together in 4 simple steps. Take a deep breath and go through this process with presence. First, notice the moment when the cycle tries to repeat. You already know the signs. Recurring thoughts, that familiar emotion, the automatic behavior. Recognize it. Stop. Take a deep breath. Bring your attention to the present. This alone breaks the continuity of the subconscious habit. Second, interrupt the emotional command. When you realize that the emotion does not represent your current self, but the identity you want to leave behind, say clearly to yourself, "This is the old pattern." Don't fight it. Just name it. To recognize it is to deactivate it. Your awareness takes the place of repetition. Third, choose to feel the new. This may feel strange at first, but this is where the shift happens. Instead of reacting, you will create. Choose an elevated emotion. Confidence, gratitude, presence. Even if the outside world hasn't changed yet, the internal command is yours. Your body will resist at first, it's used to a different chemistry, but persist. Bring to mind images of who you want to be. Act as if you're already in that state. Feel in your body how this new version of you would move, react, and behave. Finally, stabilize. Bring your attention to your body. Breathe consciously 3 times. Feel whole. And affirm internally, "This is the frequency I choose now." You don't need all the answers. You just need not to return to the old pattern. With each conscious repetition, this new emotion becomes more natural, and the body learns to live from it. This practice, as simple as it may seem, is the foundation of reprogramming. You move from reaction into creation, and when the vibration changes, the results follow. The loop works like a closed system between thought, emotion, and behavior. An automatic thought triggers an emotion you know well. That emotion activates a behavioral reaction that confirms the belief behind the thought. And the cycle restarts, creating a sense of inevitability. Even after a moment of breakthrough, like the one you just experienced, it's common for the mind to try to regain control and for the body to return to the old pattern. This happens because the subconscious cycle is built for efficiency, not for freedom. This is the point where you need to make a clear choice. Either you keep your vibration trapped in the old cycle and continue feeding the same results, or you hold the new frequency you've started to activate, even when nothing around you confirms that it's working yet. This is where many people give up. They try for a day or two, don't see immediate signs, and return to the old way of operating. But real change is not an event. It's a process. Reprogramming yourself requires conscious repetition. Each time you interrupt the pattern and choose a new emotional response, you weaken the structure of the previous cycle. Most people try to change their behaviors without changing the belief and emotional systems that feed them. That's why the effort doesn't last. The behavior may change for a few days, but the vibrational field keeps operating from the same internal reference. The mind isn't trying to get in the way. It's simply repeating what it was conditioned to be. The body still recognizes the old pattern as identity, and any attempt at change without reconfiguring that field will be temporary. To transmute is not to suppress. It is to go through and integrate. What you still feel frequently, fear, rejection, lack, guilt, is not just an emotional trait. It's an energetic signature. And as long as that signature is active, your unconscious system will keep seeking situations that validate that state. Letting go of who you were is not about abandoning your story, but about no longer carrying it as a pattern. The subconscious mind and your energetic field can only operate with what you allow, and the most powerful form of permission is emotional repetition. The change that Joe Dispenza proposes is not magical or instant. It's practical, conscious, and energetic. And it begins the very moment you stop reacting like someone who's just surviving and start responding like someone who's creating. Every emotional choice made from your new state is a step out of the cycle, a step toward alignment between intention and vibration. If this made sense to you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this content with someone else who also feels stuck in repeating cycles and needs a way out. By commenting below which part impacted you the most, you anchor this new pattern in yourself and help others access the same awakening. Your identity is a frequency, and reality always responds to what you sustain, not just what you wish for. The choice is yours, and it happens now.